in like you might get an impression right now, especially for like Sentomaru to like sort of like even towards like the end, like the island. Like still not that amazing, but like the thing that initially was that Pizarro will be showing up. So you make it to like technical island and at that point I'm looking for like Sentomaru to go through that apple sort of like having Pizarro as well turn against like Sentomaru at that point and attempt to like from Sentomaru to count that point of thing where like, it's not terrible. But like I'm really looking for like even at that point I'm like, looking for like Lucy and like for the to definitely ensuring that the survival of like Sentomaru they got like the end of like the island after that till now that I'm so like I want to get it in my job. So like that way continue trying to take the thing towards like the end of like the actual island like I'm going to from like by the time as well as like the six side like point of like that's the last thing about it that point to have become part of like the grand fleet is like the international parameter that is very also, definitely, the reference for like the current battle against like Lucian Roque bringing injury to like the point where like Lucian Roque constantly maintaining his like superiority in like one-time power against like Lucy and like Lucy, regardless of the things Lucy need to like the battle against like Lucian Roque that it being evident for evident that Lucy is like clearly outmatched for against like Luffy instead we are fighting things like this with scenarios that that we are looking at before like Luffy right as like Luffy would eventually about to like bring down Luffy with that final finishing move. And that very last second is when I'm looking most likely for like Luffy to like chill but command to like Esther something and like the Esther something at that very last second getting in the way and basically most likely teleporting and sending Luffy to a faraway island is less challenging to step like an arm that I would and than the adopted level and the model might be looking might be attached to the case that given to the and such military step like a scenario is under that is how focusing for like still see most like using that shouting out that season for the legislative control of like that are just like taking control more than just that way like just be using like the steps and again like do people do PPC and focus on like using to that unexpectedly think about that system like a scenario like sending to away from a island is like the scenario that I'm talking about today. Right. It was like the claim to the human brain for like why then that story is secretly managing to like why the team agency was like that against that Lucian different exclusive eventually figuring out that making contact with like the elders and basically who came and basically most likely the elders like most likely giving up some sort of like a secret code which might be that absolute alternative like the absence of like the elders to be able to like take control which might totally that was like shouting out those code which might be like control like the stuff might be having that way more of like a superior authority than kind of thing for like at that point for like send them out to be in the aspect in that kind of situation like you just happen like when you can have like a music. But like I'm looking for by sheer pointing for like send up in like the favor of send them out and good thing at that point exactly for like actual Roma to like show to like next item. Is like the scenario that I was able and so like all of them entering into like the bad period that is the creating that atmosphere which will be allow for like the survival of that cinema. That we could not current and so that way not only looking for like the score and the team of like serving score to and like the challenge from the background to can have the everything and only they are managing to like hold on against that the group of that Lucy and the sort of members and that the subject is actually into now that and so that while they were struggling the way to that barely manage to like hold on to be when I'm looking that actually a connection that so left is out to be happening and instantly like the end of side of like the battle will be changing against like team of friends going to connect the battles also like not sustainable. So that game was bring like satellite forms as well as like the thing and stuff also I through that all of them going through that app so some kind of like situation was like the kind of like and that's here to see this running and to be on the verge of that aspect in the situation that comes to loving Maybe when I'm talking for like boosting along with like viral and to like finally make the book emerge. And basically at that point is when I'm talking like the ultimate battle of like boosting and Sugaru happening is that feeling with the scenario that I'm going to is that lovely my computer and right now that I'm splitting onto that like basically myself like creating that this is my first version of that going to that where myself and some like experiments and might have created like my through versions of that Paramecia so that video doesn't go might see that that is a game supplement can make there and that way I can when that is my through of like senior things like swing through swing might have been created by Vegapunk and might have been given to like the generation and might have been what I don't have to like with me to theory and the it is so like the human reimbursement right now was that it might not just be lancing or thing alone, but like the entirety of the remains suffering or trailing top flamingo like henchman as well as top flamingo or at person might be one of them at person might be kind things that had like in the town might be like that with your friend, but is supplement at certain supplementary and they can do it. At the end, spring, it might not just be them, but I can conduct before destroying Gudusi and like they remove might most likely like teleport Sabo towards that thing for like information might have been not very but like that move might move self might have forget Sabo and after that forgetting Emo might have send Sabo off to like the percent of like but out might have been maybe might have happened might have been so like after project the more lower floor of like the simple down like and also going that at present like simple down might have like any like the lowest floor of that down that another even lower floor might have been created for like the down by now might be like that with the case that we have and that very newest and like lower floor and like the down where also visiting at present for like uh where like Sabo as well as like even DV as well might be there exactly there might be at present might be like that with the case that we might be very interested probably my procedure for like to like the end of like the exercise up is when I'm looking for through most likely for to this through the better that I'm looking for like Lucy and for like also finding out about like the current whereabouts of that the and appointment for it to be most likely maybe being at like in the downs like it's not then so like I'm referring that way this time like I'm referring that way after like the exercise and half will be over like maybe for like Lucy and so it deciding to that head over to that once again encourage to that the down and to let's say receiving like saving the scenario that I'm looking at I'm looking that reinvitation to that in the down by the start and that time by when up at this point where that at that point is when I was for maybe that whole like that is taking place there like sitting in that problem because as well as like the remaining of like of like X-Men all of them getting paid in that clash that will be happening at like in the now and that is like not matter and at that point I'm definitely putting for like a rebattle between that Daisy and Magellan has been certainly happening at like in the now where like I'm thinking for like to be to like finally settle for like Magellan like doing this now that I'm going to bring else definitely I'm looking that way like eventually making it to the better side for eventually making it to like the lower most long and there I'm going to like more than to like chocolate flying not only really there but like with their bases like surprise length and also finding Sabo as well there this is actually not excited that way like really as well as Sabo getting real levels for the like this is not excited and also putting like even to the person that might maybe might be of like the belief that like the loss of like Sabo happened to like the destruction of like Louisiana might be around like even threat of might be like might be like that to the belief that he might be like understood by them. So like that about the next and so maybe for like the next half of like Elba, which I think from to that Elba half like and likely happening of like the group while maybe and Scott and Co will be setting off the intention to like save the on people down is like in scenario that I'm working while they were just setting off the like the way that they're getting caught in some scenario on that situation which seem to be without putting any taxes for it, so eventually uh, ending up at like back to like the scenario or like watching a show about like and that in the even good scenario that I'm not and I'm just enables that for to be made to such a man of like the next up uh ending up being held back. It's a text that good scenario that I'm going to think in the race and it's like okay, so that we might be interesting right now to saw that maybe for like three maybe done that where from coming up with like that actually strategy to that help like the foreign to bring down the world government and to make that and to bring that where from maybe come up with that actual strategy of that creating or replicating like where from home brain like since it's like a parameter or so like in that where coming up with like the idea to that replicate that structure code and give it to like one of like the store implement and that we are projecting that to that so cool that in terms of like replicating like the framework into and like by the time would have completed like creation of like the framework to like send out time like I'm saying like the store and might be away from that where like a document might be when to change that thing. But like I'm projecting before like where would be able to like for like this product to and give like the frame rate to kind of like the frame rate to like what I'm doing that. Before that I'm looking for like before that like remove like sources like managing to that figure out that about like less quality of that rather getting like the frame rate to like the scenarios that are and so like that way like I'm talking like remove like the sending sources and basically that way I'm talking like where to that most likely definitely not survive until like the very end of the show the main in that most likely I'm talking about like that was like I'm relaxed most likely static and with like a lot of electricity sees like the replicated like frame rate from Denver and for example, for example, today lines like support can will be giving and that way like that's all the create the law of number and something and like the replicated brain would getting seized and this that being drawn to that knowledge versus like it's not a number and like the elders like giving like the brain code so that thing just like the narrow that anything and that way like before like the brain the ultimate program that should be taking place effectively end up with the show that and in that way managing to like get hands on like the certificate of like the selection is not like and technically also managing and I'm sure that like might might be might have like most like very slow course might have granted more like the mortality might have been more like a pattern such as so that due to that sole fact like it might be the case of like you might be able to like until any number like might be number like about any number might be like that it's so like that way like consuming like the brain so as well and the affiliate version of the brain so as well and that way like I'm like and not only that, like, managing to like also without directly like that also managing to like skillfully awaken like the brain reach like maybe like what may be like awakened state of like the brain which may be as well. It's like scenario that I'm getting and at that point I'm going to bring that way like most likely that way at that point, like, even surpassing that weapons, like, intelligence of that kind of stuff, not intelligent and that, and that way, like, even figuring out, like, as to, like, how to replicate, like, uh, logia developers, like, in not a so, like, in that final zone of that, uh, against what might be in which pocket can be like the interpret so that by the number of things you need to have exactly replicator like maybe all the logia services like not you be given all the replicator logia approach to that maybe so just to the maybe that not that to the word on down is like now that so something so like at that point so when I'm bringing the next for to then break having to that face off and that against that and then that to sound of that the world on for this lab. The lab great number of them would be more like a reflection of things like logia powers like the individual financial or battle finale that we're looking at and that way I'm going to bring like maybe you to actually like that will help like that will help like I'm going to maybe by the time of like the final end scenario like minus four on battle again like like not needed I think for like the so had grand reach to not like the an army of where like an might be or something lab replicator, power subject replicator, Paramecia, through weapon help the boss and losses like generic and different. So like for instance, they getting access to great number of complicated Paramecia, also power like another than the next product to and their grand state so that the Paramecia, replicated Paramecia, only powers that facing off against that and Finnish army, Bulgarian army of that replicated that. So yeah, no food houses like how comfort dependent the final sort of planet to be this like the sort of medicine out that I'm looking at right now. I think it's very right. So yes, so like we are right now for like to be like contacted with an undermine or like right now to yeah the location where like the repeated BTS and these team to see that this is a day so that at that point one that will be making there like an like to cargo like to some right while that will be trying to like pick up that repeated movie like at that point to like like they just got some stand right beside behind Carlos like scenario element of Sentomaru by then given the authority to give the order to the SBS to most likely send like the three people or members away to like the farmware and it's like so that the like so the thing so that has like Kabu would you become like the repeated LG like the SBS is like standing right behind Kabu and like straight away sending Kabu and LG to farmware and like then at that point itself I'm looking for for like the all the servants like really cornering quickly cornering Susie and basically that is that servant straight away sending Susie as well to direct like farmware and it's like then so the player will bring at that point like in the three people in the slack will be taking off that farmware and then like some broken things for like Susie to like most likely have pocket one snail with was like so like at that point like Snoopy straight away according to like again how like about like their mission failure like not and their current situation that is not done of the point. So like but finding that part of the island is like they will be at that point. So the thing like Snoopy might be able to like might be able to like recognize exactly which island they are in and exactly where they are at that point it's like it's not that I'm doing. So like to see that way really like the whereabouts their current whereabouts to like again and I'm looking at that point by share point phone like they might be close to lab the ship in which like Pizarro currently might be in it's definitely one frame it's definitely that way lab Pizarro making that fixed up at like that island and basically taking like the three people around this on Pizarro's ship and like them together, like setting off to back to like Eckerd Island to get their revenge against like the foreign group and to like complete the expedition was like finished now that I'm going to bring and that they're right now. So like that I'm going to bring right now for like the third one as well as then the foreign group at like the situation to be feeling at ease and comfortable thing that will be the battle is over and basically that way like I'm like spending uh, even more great extent of time at like different island before that which is before they would be heading off from planning on heading off on like different island the plan by is like it's not planning to so like they're spending a lot of time at like different island and basically have they will be about to leave Eckerd Island with Jack Benton. At that very last second is when I'm looking for like the unexpected end of Jack Kizaru as well as like the return of technology and like the cities around us like will be happening and like Eckerd Island is like the tsunami that I'm using and then so I'm definitely looking for like the creative letter or like Kuma it's like making it so extra highlight is definitely able to represent that and I'm going to bring at that point that for like that sort of warning to reunion happening is like the scenario that I'm working and all that like taking up a lot of like the product so as well reuniting with like Roma and all that like reunion and everything like taking up a lot of time which would be resulting in like basically like for to represent that Kizaru along with that along with the creative teams along with the documentary being able to like make it towards like exercise and before like the product program of like to be leaving exercise and next thing is now that I'm just slowly doing that and right now. Okay, so like that we instead of the matter represent more like second on like that we survive until like towards like the end of like the pilot just like it's not a available. So that current Sentomaru might have only just passed out, might be like active place in practically. But yeah, it's different one like and like on the different like the moment Sentomaru is what one that might have passed out like at that point Sentomaru was kind of like Sentomaru like control over like the substance might have gone on Rivo might have been one like a back in so like that way once again like was into gaining control over like something even though like when I'm really calm or reflective now it's so like that way I'm the different one like when I'm over to the like I'm relaxed and I'm over to be in a situation where like the was like more to this class like it's not that I'm open and so I'm that way I'm being in the computer man and like on the different of the like the scenario where like the sort of needs to have put like according to like this or like the person who have put Sentomaru into a kind of activity instead of game of framing. It's a kind of activity that's my own framing. And at that point, I'm noticing was like that kind of activation like a different like the interrogation plans and interrogation of the mother period that when it's done very different. So regardless of how this like losing and losing projects like in the Maro like not willing to then give up that then when time to projects in the Maro to like figure out how to like get to that the top phase like the top level towards like where man to do things. Yeah, it's kind of very but like I'm depending like in the Maro that is not revealing that with information that regardless of the information that I'm so at that point is when I'm protesting for like most likely the like exclusive notes about like the island like my like exclusive mindset trying to like figure out how uh, they will be able to like make it to like the top phase, like the top levels of like the island. So exclusive island like eventually managing to like figure out on her own like how to make it to like the top level to like so, like at that point from the different like Lucy will just straight away about to like bring down but like at that very last second, when I'm putting my like for like the end of that like 2 months having like that of like say like but like endings of like 2 months that the people government is getting struck from like certain amount like a when like yeah like I'm just like to like 2 months like considering like like 2 months not being able to like too much adopt against like the people government is like not then like they straight away bring down like 2 months like it's not that like from like at that point I'm going to from like the top level and go to like morning so like the morning or like morning stop we see 2 months and basically morning at that point would be just really wanted to like go down and basically say the father like now so like one straight away telling thematic to like where to like take us to like the lower level towards like but like I'm at that point telling Bonnie that it's painful. So like at that point I'm talking like Bonnie getting absolutely fuming and embracing his black weapon and to gain the like regenerating weapon to like complete right then as such like Bonnie to like the law of the so at that point I'm looking for like new thing as like the gapping in that situation I'm so different for to be exactly at that point that I'm looking for like Pizarro is like the piece of making it to electric islands like so like all of that like point like the product is probably seeing through like amount of so like at that point it's definitely the point like you can look at the definitely also like wanted to be really wanted electric that so it's like 2 miles save 2 miles at least like then so but yeah that point I'm looking for like to be as like happen of like provide so like taking that as the thing and telling like Sanji as well as like Zoro to come around with like to be and spawning to like the low levels to battle against like the rather than bring down like Caesar and like the team of like Caesar and Caesar like it's not that I'm looking and like it's like get up the line like we get better like on the so like that's been a like while Luffy will be telling for like the remaining of the squad for to like stealthily like go down to like the lower levels and they take the Sunny and like take the punk around with us and basically like stealthily make it out of like next island and head for like the next island steadily on the same. So to like Luffy at that point will be determined to like make sure to like say where the steadily on the so like where at that point the ball leaving them friendly during the hot to like like that lady wants to like walk around like Luffy, Sandy and Dora and Bonnie's team. and they pass like the battle again like the something like the take on for them to like the satellites to like take on like to be along the lines and different to be given the open that one it's like it's now then so like that way like when while like the remaining product that along with that where one of the different like the putting and safety leave it different island like I'm focusing and that when I'm focusing for like team of like to be for scientific and like forming making it in time like body exactly making it in time as like which would be about to print on to my like like for like going instant making it just in time like the sun that is it and the film is different like that way like actual bad beginning but like and different like would be the scenario where like Luffy would be taking off to Zoro and like Zoro would be taking Uchi and like Sandy would be taking on Kato and like Bonnie would be taking on Luffy at that point with that kind of secondary and like going for like the satellites to be taking like the serpent it's like this now that and was six satellite forms like taking on like for serpent to going like this girls like this now that was it. So the blame for like Bonnie as well as like the satellite forms like that would be having like unrevealed technical powers especially point of the range. So, like, especially I'm referring like the satellite phones like bringing about like highly technologically advanced like stuff, which might be considering like technical and like all of that advanced technology, and everything that can different like them bring into like the battle and for different forms to be a great further get like in like Luffy and team eventually manage to like defeat each of the debate like the beyond managing the previous like now that I'm really thinking that I'm both different like that is out of like absolute showing ticket happening by the days like this that I'm really thinking so it to get it started like if you like in this scenario that I'm so like after like and I'm going to work to gain a slightly after like would be 19 would be really good out of 19 the things of video at that point that I'm about things for like scenario to be that the target as well as like parameter I'm making sure like experiment the second like not like so like at that point seeing already 2017 would be almost about to fully get to be the way to this game that is that and but like that it's not like the try and effect or way at that point like that I would straight away the on to like the screen like it's not bad and the game in that way for like proceeded to along with that to the was barely managing to that train through that this was shift from like a tunnel that was now that rocket and I'm looking to be only a platform that like the reunion for between like two people and Ryan father from reunion happening the second and that was now that rocket and and that's what interacting I'm not even like really that probably know how that the representative army within like the way like state about like powers in that situation and everything that we don't think. But like with the uploaded thing with the absolutely feeling hopeful and confident about like Sabo still eventually being able to like being strong enough to like be able to like the throw and make it sort of to be along the line like with the situation that have full confidence in that Sabo like is not that as well. So in like Sabo it is like not that like so like at that point, I'm not looking for like not for like the growth of that. I'm not going to make the growth of that. Luffy Sanjian Zoro to be able to like, catch up to that performance for like I'm only putting one of like the Shaka to like to like help them and like Shaka avoiding them taking the head on on like an highly advanced like four different scenarios that I'm going like the same of like Shaka Luffy Zoro and Sanji that heading off of something that I to like as a student to remain so and to stay to not like and different. While at the same time some sort of like as well I can hand like the they are to be feeling from sacred island and so bring that them not only taking to know of them but I'm going to that at that point like warning deciding making that up to change of like her decision to and deciding like give up her title of like the world generation to join like the revolutionary army that we were and that they are good friend like body that they are good friend will be so relieved to finally be able to like reunite his like father Roma that basically Bonnie has from that you know deciding and then like the loss of like Bonnie's so as well Bonnie should hand over things like I'm going to bring like Bonnie down to the resident to like devote the remaining of her life to the beside her father and definitely like work together with her father's goal of like the religion as like a religion army member to be along the lines like Tony location take the decision and that way like I'm from Texas Island like Tony feeling along like Tony along like the man feeling just like wagon and it's very is that which is enough that I'm really